picks it up on his own. Come here. Still has the line on the rope, knocks it out of the air. Emmeline picks up the passed ball. Emmeline going back. Hook in there by Anya, just misses. Emmeline now the hook.
When you're tacking your horse up, put your saddle on last and take your saddle off first. That way, if your horse decides to leave town, he doesn't dump your saddle off. And bad enough that he wrecks your bridle running off and stepping on reins. But if he dumps your saddle off, it's expensive to replace it. So the other thing is not to leave your saddle in front of a horse that's tied up, because the temptation is just too great to just not chew on the leather. Horses love to chew on leather. I am bridling the horse. I know I have her fairly under control here because she's not super green, so I don't need to leave a halter around her neck because I know she's not going to leave. I'm putting a double bridle on her, so I'm going to hold it in my hand, and I'm going to touch her on the roof of the mouth. When she opens, I'm going to lift up with my right hand as the bit slides in so that she doesn't bite my fingers. The function of the throat latch is to keep the bridle on, so if a friend of yours rides by or it gets hung up during the game, it doesn't come off. It shouldn't be super tight. About 3 fingers between the jaw and the throat latch leather piece would be sufficient, so that when their heads come kind of up and in, they're not choking themselves out. We tuck in the keepers, because it would be kind of irritating riding down the field with this thing like flapping like that in your eye. So those keepers are there for a reason. And the most important part of a curb chain adjustment is to keep the curb chain flat against the horse's jaw. If you just hang them on any old way, the horse will be getting the edge of it in his jaw, and it can really cut them or even break that little bone. So you want to keep it flat. And while I'm at it, I will discuss the correct adjustment of a curb chain. If you put a finger underneath the curb chain between the horse's jaw and the curb chain, and you pull back on your curb rein, your bottom rein, you pull back. When that curb chain makes contact with the horse's jaw, you should have about a 45-degree angle here between the line of the horse's mouth and the shank of the curb piece itself. So you'd have this 45-degree angle. If you have too loose like this, the curb chain might as well not even be on there, because you've got a 90 degrees here and it's not even making contact yet. So its function is to apply pressure to the horse's jaw. One more thing that they may have respect for and stop better. Yeah, if it's too tight, you can break that horse's jawbone. So you just a finger underneath there, pull back, make sure you've got your 45 degrees. And that should, that's the standard adjustment. Okay, we put the saddle pad on the horse mostly to keep the bottom of the saddle clean, because the saddle gets salty from the horse's sweat, it just wears out faster. So if the saddle fits correctly, you really shouldn't even need a saddle pad. But sometimes they look nice, you have your initials on there, it matches the bandages, it does look nice. I'm going to keep one arm kind of through the reins here just to keep the horse from going anywhere. Not that I think this mare will go anywhere, but one never knows. Function of the breast collar is to keep the saddle from sliding back. Unless you're walking straight downhill on a horse, I've yet to see a saddle slide forward during the course of a game. So the correct adjustment of the breast collar is that it should be snug against the horse's chest. If there's a big loop here, it's not doing any good at all. Big sigh from her. I like to keep the martingale, make sure the martingale is in the middle between the front legs. Sometimes you tighten the girth, it's over here on one side or the other, mostly on this side. So you want to make sure that thing is in the middle. And then the standard adjustment of a martingale is that when the horse is standing in neutral here, this piece should just come up to the horse's jaw. If you have a horse, some people call it a tie down. It's not meant to tie the horse's head down. Let's see if I can give you a really good demonstration, but it'll take one of your arms to do this. So, okay. The function of this is to give the horse in polo. There's so much yinging and yanging and rebalancing going on out there. It gives the horse something to balance against. And I'm going to give you a demonstration here with Robin. If you'll put both hands, so if I remove that, see how you slip. So it gives the horse something to balance against out there on the field. Now, if you have a horse that really tends to carry its head too high, you can make it a little bit more snug, but the object is not to tie the horse's head down. It's just to give him something to balance against. In general, the length of your stirrup will be from your armpit with your fingers bent like this to the buckle would be probably a good stirrup length for you. You can get on there and then change it if you have to. The beauty of the English saddles is that you can change them while you're up there. But basically, that's going to be fairly standard. Now, if a person plays number 3, that would be probably standard adjustment. If you play number 2, you might shorten them 1. If you play number 1, you might shorten them 2. Or if you play back, you might even lengthen them 1. But standard adjustment is typically armpit to knuckles. That'll work. The reason we use an overgirth is sort of like wearing a seatbelt in your car. It's just safer, and there's absolutely no logic for not using one. And again, it should buckle right underneath very, very close to the martingale so that the buckles aren't poking holes in the horse's elbows. We cut little slits in our saddles here so the overgirth fits through the slit, because if you don't have it, then you can't adjust your stirrups or anything when it's down like this. You can't lift up the skirt of the saddle. So we just cut little slits in there, which some people think is tough on the saddle, but then I go through the martingale on both sides and make sure the buckle is right underneath and not poking the horse. And when moving around the horse in the stall, when you're getting it ready, you want to let the horse know you're there. Horses sleep standing up. They can be sleep standing up. I've had ribs broken by a horse. I went to fly spray, stood in front of it, the horse woke up and struck me in the chest. So you want to let the horse know you're there, talk to it, and when you're walking behind the horse, just keep a hand on the hip, stay either very close, because if they do go to kick, they're not going to have as much leverage when you're really close to them. At least they know you're there. Keep a hand on them. Just let them know you're there.